Yes, why are we here today? It's because of CQC interview tips. We registered to CQC, the Care Quality Commission. They are an independent regulator of the health and social care in England. They regulate the regulatory activity, which is in most cases for us, it's personal care. Although those who are also doing complex care, it will be complex care. Personal care means the provision of care, of, of personal care for people who are not able to care for themselves due to old age, illness, disability, a number of reasons really. We are going to talk today about care in the community, which is what most of us are registering for. So that's domiciliary care, supported living, mother and baby units. And before I go in any further into my talk, I'm going to talk about the main things that we need to be aware of or mindful of before we, get to our CQC interview date. We need to make sure that as the registered manager, your CV, it sells, it demonstrates all the experience that you have. Because from my experience, in most cases, people are experienced, they've got management experience, they've sometimes even done the job before, where they've managed maybe a care home, a residential home, a supported living service, but it's not there on their CV. They are not demonstrating the skills that they've gained from those jobs. So it's very important that you work on your CV and outline all the skills and experiences that you've gained over the years. Because with CQC, they are more interested in the experience and the skills that you can actually perform the duties of a registered manager. So that's for the registered manager bit. It's just a tip there, so we are mindful of. I was about to say amen, because the most places that I speak is in church. So bear with me if I say amen. So who must register with CQC? I mentioned them. If you want to be a registered manager for a service, or a nominated individual for a service. But before we get there, to register with CQC, you can be an individual, a partnership, an organization who perform personal care. So when we register with CQC, we do the provider application form and the registered manager application form. And we need to show how we need to demonstrate how we are going to meet the KLOEs, how we are going to provide a safe service, a responsive service, a well-led, effective, and caring. We are going to go through the KLOEs later on in our presentation this afternoon. I've already touched on this, who will be interviewed. So it's the nominated individual and the registered manager. So if in some cases, the nominated individual and the registered manager can be the same person. So what happens, you are given 2 slots. Either you have the nominated individual interview first, and then the registered manager interview later on that afternoon, and sometimes it can be the next day. If it's separate, 2 separate individuals, then you are given your dates and interview times, which might be on the same day again or might be separate. The main thing to take note of, if you are taking notes, is if you are both the registered manager and the nominated individual, there's one tip I want to throw in there for you. They would definitely ask you, so you are the registered manager and the nominated individual, who is going to supervise you? Who is going to take care of your complaints? So this question, you need to be able to answer that. I'm going to have a good relationship with other care providers in my area. I have a mentor, a business coach, who's going to supervise me, and they are also CQC registered. So therefore, they know what I should be doing as a registered manager. And you also need to subscribe to platforms like Skills for Care, as they provide management courses. They provide meetings and gathering for registered managers and providers. So what do we need to do as we are preparing for our CQC interviews? We need to know what notifications we do to CQC. That is, in the event the registered manager is away for 28 days or more. If there are any changes to the registration. So this can be a change of address, a change of phone number, a change, maybe you've added another regulated activity onto your registration, so you need to notify CQC, or any changes to your statement of purpose. And also, if there's any serious incident that has happened in your service, you need to notify CQC, or any safeguarding that has happened as well. We need to notify CQC. And the one thing that you need to know is you must know your policies and procedures. This one, there's no two ways about it, because if you are a provider or a registered manager who does not know their policies, how would you expect your staff to know the policies? So you need to know them. You need to read them all. Some people say it's impossible, but I say you read the main ones to start off with. So that's your recruitment, your complaints, your safeguarding, your induction, those important ones. So if you put them maybe in sections of 20, so you read them, you make notes, you understand them, and you go on until you finish them, as we are aware that it's quite a lot of them. Because if you don't know your policies, how are you going to teach your staff to implement, those policies and procedures? That's when sometimes we see there's bad culture at a service, and staff don't actually know what they are supposed to do or how they are supposed to work, because they're just doing what they think is right. So as a provider, registered manager, know your policies, develop a good culture for your service. And we need to know the fundamental standards of care. There are quite a few of them, so go through them. You don't need to know word by word, but just know, just the bare minimum, what each point represents. That's what we need to know. And back on the key lines of inquiry, these ones, you have to know them, because they are parts, they are very important, because if you don't know them, your service is not going to be good. It's not going to be outstanding, because you need to implement things in place for you to meet these key lines of inquiries. Otherwise, your service will be inadequate, or it will require improvement. So I'm going to talk, you see, I'm also talking as though you are registered, because we are preparing you to get your CQC registration and also be able to implement those things after the registration. On the KLOEs, you need to demonstrate how your service is safe. So these are things like safeguarding. You need to protect your service users from abuse. And under safeguarding, you can talk about robust recruitment process. We can talk about all the systems, that you've put to safeguard your service users from abuse. This is, a must. This is the main topic. We need to safeguard our service users from abuse. And then managing risks. We need to demonstrate how are we managing risk, how are we minimizing risk from happening. Sometimes we can't eliminate risks totally, but what systems have you put in place as a provider to reduce, the impact of the risk, if there's any? And we need to offer safe care and treatment to our service users. Medicines management, this is very important. Again, if you don't have a good medication policy, if your staff are not well trained, they haven't done their medication competencies, they are not going to administer medication safely. So those are the areas that we need to go through and understand. And so to demonstrate what your staff are going to be doing to make sure medication is going to be administered safely. This can be, for example, you do weekly audits, 2 weekly medication audits, or monthly reviews. It's entirely up to you how you do things at your service, but you must do medication audits. And you need to keep a track record of things, and we need to learn. If there's anything that happens, like there's a complaint, we need to learn from those and put systems in place for us to improve on our, on the service that we provide. That's learning when things go wrong. So we don't brush things under the carpet when things don't go, the right way, because maybe no one has seen it. It's in an in-house thing, so we brush it under the carpet. No, we don't do that. We learn from things. That the more you actually show you are learning from things, you actually get better ratings, because what they are not there. CQC is not there to check up on us, but they are there to support us to provide a safe service. So if, for example, you have a complaint and they want to see, okay, you've received a complaint, how long did it take you to acknowledge the complaint? And how long has it taken you to deal with the complaint? And after dealing with the complaint, was the service user happy with with the outcome? If they were not happy, what information did you give them for them? Did you give them the local authority details so that they can, complain further? Did you give them the local government ombudsman so that they can channel their complaints? Did you give them CQC details so that they can channel their complaints? This shows that we are not hiding anything, but we are open and transparent. Is the service caring? We need to demonstrate kindness, respect, and compassion towards our service users. So we need to demonstrate, how we are going to meet these points. How are you going to be kind? How are you going to treat your service users with respect? This can be simple things like asking their consent before carrying on a task, so your staff will be able to do that, and also gaining consent when you take on a new service user, involving people in decision making about their care. So you are not just, putting things in place on their behalf, but you are involving your service users, you are involving their families, you are involving their friends, and also even their neighbors, if they have good neighbors who help them. So you are involving them. And we are also involving maybe their social workers if they have, or maybe they were with another care agency. Before you involve that care agency, because they know them better. The fact that they've supported them maybe for 2 weeks, that's good enough for them to know something about that service user. And then also we need to maintain their privacy and dignity. How do we demonstrate this? A good example, when we are supporting our service users with personal care, we cover half, and then while we do the other half, and then vice versa. And also we make sure the doors are closed, to maintain their dignity, their respect. Is the service responsive? This one is person-centered care. We need to demonstrate how we are delivering person-centered care. So this is from the assessment again. Like I said, we involve everyone that knows this service user. We gain as much information about the service user as possible to help us implement a person-centered care plan for them. So we are looking at what things do they like, what are their interests, so that we put in place things that are suitable for them. We don't do a one-size-fits-all, but our service users are individuals, so they must be treated as such. And we need to listen to them, and our staff needs to listen to the service users. They need to take their views into account. So they are not just going to say, oh, we do things for Mr. X this way, so for Mr. Y, we do the same thing. No, but we are going to listen to our service users, provide care according to their needs. And we also need to take into account the needs of different people. Like I've touched on this already, our service users, they are individual, so we need to provide care, according to their individuality. And timely access to care and treatment. So when you say you are providing care, you need to do it. You don't just stop giving care. You don't miss calls. So this one is another point that CQC, when you have your interview, they are touching on call monitoring systems. This helps so that if your carer, for example, is late, you'll be able to pick it up. So if it's a habit, you can pick it up quickly that this person is arriving to their call 10 minutes late, and they are maybe spending 20 minutes with the client instead of maybe half an hour, or instead of spending an hour, they are there for 45 minutes and they leave. So these care monitoring systems will be able to help you pick those things up. And another advantage is you'll be able to have your MyChat online. So if there's any medication error, you are alerted quicker. And the care plans, they are online. The risk assessments, they are online. So if there's, any updates that needs to be done, you are alerted as well. So it's an advantage. It's a positive thing. However, when you are just starting, it can be expensive. So it's something that you need to look at. But maybe when you are registered and you've got like quite good a few hours that you'll be able to meet, you'll be able to meet that expense. It's a good thing to have. Any concerns and complaints, you need to respond to them effectively. You need to know your complaint policy. How long does it take you to acknowledge a complaint? How long does it take you to deal with a complaint? And when you deal with the complaint, after the outcome, when you give it to the service, if they are not happy, what do they do? If you are the registered manager and the nominated individual, and the complaint is against you, what systems are in place for the services to complain freely, or sometimes even staff? Where do they complain to? Where can they channel their complaints if it's just you? And also, what lessons have you learned from every complaint, from every concern? This one is a must. We need to develop a lessons learned folder where all the, everything that happens, every complaint, every feedback, we learn from them and we implement the lessons learned folder. Because the lessons learned folder helps us to put systems in place so that we avoid that from happening again in the future. Or we minimize the impact, because sometimes it's not always it's not always possible to eliminate it all, but we can reduce the impact. And then the next KLOE, is it well led? This one, it talks about the leadership and capacity. Like the registered manager, are you leading the team well? Are you listening to your staff? Do you have an open door policy? Are you providing training to your staff? Are they receiving their supervisions? Are they, having support if they want to do other courses like their NVQs or any other course they require? Are you supporting your staff? What's the vision for the organization? What's the culture of the organization? Develop a positive culture for your organization. So these are the things that you're going to talk in your interview, so you demonstrate you know what you're going to do. Because the purpose of the CQC interview is to show what you're going to do after your registration. Your governance and management, what audit are you going to do? What risk assessment are you going to do? For example, we've got medication risk assessment, we've got the audits that we need to do. We've got care plan audit that, there are a number of them. So do you know all of them? So these are the things you need to demonstrate you have knowledge of. You need to show that you are listening. The main thing is to listen to staff, because the staff, they spend more time with our service users. They spend more time out in the community. Distribute questionnaires. And when they come, review them, look at the outcomes, and improve the service. Value the service user's opinion. That is very important. And if the staff feel they are valued, they are going to perform their duties well. And if there are any things that are not going right, they will be able to come back to you and tell you that, oh, this needs to change. We are finding a challenge in this way. But if you have a closed culture, staff will also, just keep quiet and say, oh, they will not approach you. So have an open door policy. Have staff meetings regularly, because during staff meetings, that's when you hear what's happening on the field. Our supervisions are pointed on this. We need to do them at least 3 monthly. And then we need to do work observations. So these are spot checks to make sure our staff wearing the right uniform. Are they using the right PPE? Are they, relating to the service user well? And our yearly appraisals and our monitoring checks. Support plans, are they being reviewed? We need to review them. Medication administration chart, we need to review them. The supervision forms, we need to review them and audit them. And staff trainings, they need to be reviewed and audited. And our policies and procedures for an organization, although, when you are an established company, it's an annually, but I always say as a startup, audit your policies maybe every 3 months or quarterly. Once the service you've got more clients and you are more busier, then you go to 6 monthly and then yearly after that. Because this helps you to learn. You learn faster and you'll be used to the routine of doing things, rather than to wait until when you are very busy. Then you start to learn, oh, that's how you miss things. And when they come to inspect you, some things would have been, done. And as a registered manager, we need to demonstrate that we are going to work well with other healthcare professionals, have a good relationship. With CQC, we expect you to know other providers in your local area, have a relationship with them. And then the duty of conduct, you need to keep your service users informed, be open and transparent to your service users. And offer training to your staff. It's very important, because when your staff are equipped, they perform their job with confidence and they perform them well. And you eliminate, abuse or any safeguarding, incidents. You eliminate them or reduce. So now we are just going to go through some CQC interview questions. So this one is going to be interactive because I can see some of you, you have your names on your, you've logged in with your names, which is amazing. So I'm just going to cover a few, then I'll just pick random people. So if you don't mind, if you want to be involved, kindly raise your hand. Then I know you are where you can talk. Then I could ask you a question. So I'm expecting all the hands to go up now. Wonderful. Yes, they are coming. That's amazing. Yes. Oh, I've only seen one hand so far. I'm expecting more hands. Okay, I've seen one more. Or if you have a question, before I go to the example questions, kindly type your questions if you have any question in the chat box. Maybe you are where you can't speak, kindly type your questions in the chat box. So I'm just going to pick a question. This one says, wait a minute, where am I? Or if there are any specific topics that you want us to cover, kindly type them in the chat because the questions are a lot. So I'm just trying to choose. Okay, there's a question here. How many policies and procedures should we read through? So in preparation of your interview, the minimum you need to do, this is the bare minimum, you need to read your recruitment, MCA and those, safeguarding, complaints, induction, medication, infection control, your governance. If I think of, this is just a few, but there is more. So these are, your bare minimum. So if there anyone with another question before we move on. Okay, I'm going to choose the very last one. How? Yeah, it's easier for me to go to the bottom. So we work our way up because the first ones are a bit personal. How are you going to ensure you stay up to date with legislation and regulation change? So this one I'm going to give to Pungai.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So how am I going to ensure that I stay up to date with legislation and regulation changes? I think you may have covered this earlier. I think it's to do with the fact that I would need to do what do you call it, updates, training updates. If it is yearly training updates, I need to do that. And when you go for training, obviously they will let you know the new legislation. And I suppose you can also check, I don't know if it's allowed to check on Google, say if it is infection control, and you can check on Google, or what you said earlier about keeping a file on, or what you did wrong or what went wrong. That way, when something goes wrong, then you can check the right way of doing things. That's also another way of learning. I think that's all I can say.
Thank you so much, Fungai. Fungai is a leader, you see.
Ah,
Are you applying to be a registered manager, or
sorry, I missed the question.
are you applying as a registered manager or the nominated individual?
Both for now.
Okay. Oh,
Yes.
that's amazing. Yeah. You've demonstrated your leadership skills, you see. The first one to answer the question. That's really not good. Well done. So yes, apart from what Fungai has said, we also need to keep up to date with the news. Listening to the news is good practice, and also reading on the CQC website. If there are any updates, they'll put them, and checking your emails. Because once you are registered with CQC, they send emails regularly just to update you on what's happening. These are some of the ways. Thank you so much. Okay, so this one I'm just going to choose randomly, since you guys, there's no another hand up. So I'm going to go to this next question. How will you support service users who are on end of life? We support service users who are on end of life by working in partnership with the district nurses and their GPs, and also making sure that they are not in pain, and to make sure that they are comfortable. And also just to giving feedback to their families really on how they're doing, just being there emotionally for the family and also for the service user. I went through this one really well. How do you handle complaints? I think I covered it about 3 times. So I need a volunteer to answer this one. How do you handle complaints? We've got David Dodwa.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear?
Yes.
Right. On handling complaints, I would make sure that the complaints are quickly attended to or resolved by listening to the complaint, informing the necessary organizations if it is a serious complaint, if it is needed to be passed on to the CQC, quickly addressing the complaint by explaining what is there, and maybe thirdly, if I cannot reply any complaints, I should let them know what is the way forward, reporting to give them details of maybe the council, as well as the CQC conducts, so that they can further send their message or their complaint to those departments. Yeah.
Super, thank you so much. I put you on the spot there, but thank you. So yes, I'll just summarize now. So complaints, we need to know how long does it take you to acknowledge a complaint. This is very important. They want you to know the dates. So I'm going to say what our policy says. Some of you, your policies might say 2 days, but our policy say we need to acknowledge a complaint within 3 days. So what does that mean? This is actually to write an email or letter to the client, our service user, to say, thank you so much we've received your complaint and we are dealing with it. We'll let you know of the outcome. Thank you. So this should not be done after 3 days, according to our policy. And then to deal and resolve the complaint, to investigate, it mustn't take us more than 28 days. That's what our complaints say. That's what our policies say. Some policies will say 30 days. So check your policy and just know what your policy say. And this time, but there are some complaints that would take you more than 28 days. In that situation, you need to give the client, like what David said there, the local authority complaints department details, so they can forward the complaints there. Because, and also to CQC and the local government ombudsman. And in the event that you are the registered manager and the nominated individual, where you cannot deal effectively with complaints that are directed to you, you need to have a mentor, another registered manager that is going to mentor you, who is going to support you with complaints that are related to you. And also, it's good practice for all of us here to subscribe with Skills for Care. What Skills for Care do is they provide leadership management courses for registered managers. They provide, meetings, short meetings. It can, networking events for registered managers, so you can learn from those who are in the same industry as you. Now, the next question. What do you have to notify the CQC, and what process would you follow if a service user? Okay. What process would you follow if a service user alleged abuse or neglect from a member of staff? So this question is on two parts. What notifications do we do to CQC, and what process do we follow if there's a service user has been allegedly abused by a member of staff? So who wants to volunteer to do this one? This one, I'm going to give it to, I've seen Mafuki there.
Good afternoon. So any form of abuse is unacceptable. So it's a never event. So I have to, I'm not sure whether this is correct. Please correct me. Whether to suspend the worker. Of course, I have to start by acknowledging the complaint to the service user, and to tell them that we're dealing with the issue. This will definitely not take 3 days, because we have to go into the root of everything. I have to ask the care worker to make a report of what happened. And whilst they are on suspicion, we have to make the investigations and be acknowledging to the client that the investigation is underway. I have to notify the CQC so that they know that this kind of thing has happened, and to alert the social worker as well. And any findings, I'll have to communicate with all these parties.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I'm not sure whether I need to inform the police as well. I think it depends with the form of abuse.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Oh, you've done really well for someone who said, I'm not sure. Thank you so much. So yes, so I'm going to do the first part. What do you have to notify CQC? So death of a service user if the registered manager is absent for 28 days or more, if there's any serious incident, a safeguarding incident like this one, and any changes to registration. And that second question, what process would you follow if a service user alleged abuse or neglect from a member of staff? Thank you so much, Irene, for that. So yes, we suspend the staff straight away, but before they go, they need to give us a report. If they were working as a pair, the other one will have to complete the incident report, and we need to notify the local authority safeguarding team, and we need to notify CQC. And as the investigations, once the investigations are over, either the outcome is they've been found guilty, that they've abused the clients, or they've been found not guilty. So if they've been found guilty, what will happen is we need to invite them for a formal dismissal meeting. We don't dismiss people over the phone or just by writing a letter. We invite them for a formal dismissal meeting. If it was maybe a misunderstanding, it's proven that the client was not abused, we invite our staff back. In most cases, we need to retrain them. Depending on what actually happened, it might be something we can do: equality and diversity training, safeguarding training, maybe a communication training. Because if it was a misunderstanding, maybe they were not communicating well with the service user, or maybe another member of staff. And we need our staff to be aware of the whistleblowing policy. Thank you. So we'll go to another question. How will information and files be stored? Sisa?
Hi everyone. It will be stored in a locked cabinet in our office where everyone can just walk in and access information of all people unless they need to. Like if we are using, like examples of bed and everything, it's online, but for you to access, you should have a PIN number, so it won't be just anyone who can have access to that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm just going to summarize again. So how will information and files be stored? So I'm going to answer the information bit. So information, it must be stored. So this is service users information. In the office, we must have lockable cabinets where we keep our service users files and also staff files. And these cabinets, they must be lockable. And if it's online, we must also have, if we are using those systems like Access, Nest Buddy, then we must make sure that when we use the computer, we log off when you finish using it, and the passwords, they change regularly, so that, if someone knows the password and they come back a week later, it won't be working because you would have changed it. And if it's files on the computer, the same thing, they need to be backed up, so that if there's a fire in your office, your information is safe because it's backed up maybe on iCloud or on another system, so you don't lose information. And also when you you send information to like social workers and other healthcare professionals, make sure they're encrypted, you've got passwords, and you don't send the password via email. You send the password you give them either on a telephone conversation or you give them in person. We are going to the next one. Let's choose on the next page. Okay, what is your recruitment process? Tandy, talk me through your recruitment process, please. So this is just the recruitment procedure. Maybe Chandi is not able to speak. We've got Kudai. Afari.
Hi. Sorry. So recruitment process. Was
Yes,
that the question on recruitment?
yes, yeah.
So okay. Would number one advertise the job? Advertise with the qualities and skills of people that we want. Conduct interviews. Do a selection process, I guess, to conduct interviews, and yeah, pick the best candidates from there.
Okay.
So either advertising through the internet, through newspapers, through and then get people to either send in their CVs first, fill in the application form online, look at what they've written, if it matches the skills that we want and the experiences, whether we need to offer them training and things like that will be obviously looked into after we've seen their CV and the application form. Then from there, we would invite them for an interview process and pick the best candidates from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. I'm just going to go through it just to summarize recruitment process. So we advertise the job, and when we advertise the job, it must have a job description and a person specification. When people apply for the job, we shortlist those candidates that we feel they have the right skills and qualifications for that post. We invite them for an interview. The interview must be conducted by 2 people. And following the interview, those who are successful, they are given conditional offers. The condition is they must give us a satisfactory DBS. They must give us 2 proof of address. They must give us 2 proof of ID and the right to work in the UK. Once these are obtained, then we invite them for induction. During the induction process, they do their mandatory and statutory trainings. They do their competencies, for example, medication competencies, and they shadow senior member of staff. So, because we want to show them the culture of our service, how we do things, how we work. So they shadow senior member of staff. And they also get to read the company's policies and procedures. So this is our recruitment process. Recruitment always touches into induction because they kind of like follow. So when you talk about recruitment, don't forget your induction. Thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure having you all this afternoon. Unfortunately, we've come to the end, but we've got 4 minutes. So I'm going to leave these 4 minutes to questions before we end. We can type our questions in the chat or unmute and ask your question.
Hi, Nyasha.
Hello.
My question is just on study tips. When I'm reading on any one policy, I sometimes get overwhelmed with the amount of information which I'm supposed to know, to store in my head. I don't know, is there like a tip on how to do this, how to read or how to keep that information? Let's take, for instance, medication policy.
Okay, let's check for medication policy. Yes. So when we are reading, this is on any policy, you want to get the main information from it because they are always long-winded, they are quite long, but you don't want to take all that. So if we look at medication policy, the main things we need to know on medication policy is, what are the, what are the, is it 7 R's? The right route, right person, those things. And we need to also know that our staff, they must have medication training. And no one should administer medication just after having the medication training, but they need to do their competencies. So that will be your next point. And then after that, you want to look at things like your staff, they need to have an understanding of medication. They don't have to know like all medication, what they're for, but they should have a minimum understanding. So they know the side effects, so in case it happens to your clients, they are able to pick things up. And also, we need to know what do we do if there's a medication error. So we need to be able to work alongside the pharmacist and the GP. We need to inform them. We don't take matters into our own hands, especially if you're a staff nurse. You know that, oh, if someone takes paracetamol, maybe they've taken it late, we'll say, oh, let's wait 4 hours. No. When you're in the community as a registered manager, you don't do that. You have to seek advice from the pharmacist and the GP. If it's out of hours, then we seek advice from emergency services. So that is enough on medication.
Thanks, Nyasha.
Nyasha, just a quick question. When the interview is being done, can I write, let's say, my core points either on infection control or on medication, so that when they are asking me, are they expecting me to know it from my head, or I can have pointers to sort of communicate with them?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so usually they expect you to know from your head, but at the same time, they do allow you to cross-reference your policies. So that doesn't mean every time you're speaking, you are looking down. But if it's just pointers, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
I was thinking maybe I can write my pointers just on few policies down so that I follow. Is they not the big things, maybe just write 5 points so that it reminds me when they're asking me questions.
Yes, that's right. And what I always advise people is you need to print all the policies that you've submitted to CQC, print them and read them, highlight on them, make notes of them, those pointers that you are saying, make them as notes so that when they say, oh, this is in your application, okay, this is actually our application. When you apply to CQC, I still have it. This thing is how many? It's over 5 years old, this little paper, but I still make reference to it. Because why? I made so many notes that up to now I still use them. And so that's what you need to do. You need to print your application. You need to print all your policies. You need to print your CV. You need to print your fundamental standards of care. You need to read on the CQC website, what do they expect from organizations when they register. So if you print all those documents and read them, you get, make your notes on them, make some notes on a separate paper. For example, like these are my notes. This is, I know this is safeguarding, this is recruitment, this is infection control. So that way it's a pointer. It will make it easy when you look, because you won't be able to read the whole policy. But these references, once you see the first line, you know what the end is, because you've been studying them. Thank you so much, Kudai. I will take the last question from Fungai. I see your hand is up.
Probably, let me hold on, let me see. I wanted to ask if we have access to the recorded clip, please. I think that's probably why.
Unfortunately, no. But if you've taken notes, you can go through them. So we
Okay.
won't be able to give the recording.
Okay. That's okay. Thank you.
But what I'm going to do, I'm going to release it as clips. So if you are on our WhatsApp group, or if you are on our Instagram or Facebook, you'll be able to see, the clips there.
Thank you very
If
much.
not, just kindly inbox me, then I'll send you the link.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much, everyone. It was a pleasure having you. I hope this session has helped you and you've learned something from today.
Yes, thank you very much. It was
Thank
very good.
you.
Thank you for your time, Yasha.
You're
Thank
most
you, Nasha.
Thank you,
enjoy
Nisha.
the rest of your
Thank
day.
you, yourself.
Thank
You're
you.
most welcome.